AirPods Pro 3 might be one of the most anticipated releases from Apple this year, and now we've gotten the clearest hint that they're real and potentially launching soon. But here's a twist: while rumors heat up and new code leaks surface, fresh market data for Counterpoint Research paints a broader picture of why AirPods Pro 3 are so important, not just for the Apple sheet, but for Apple's dominance in the global audio industry. According to Counterpoint's latest report, Apple is set to remain the top player in the premium truly wireless earbuds market, even as the broader headphone world shifts towards cheaper entry-level models. Total global shipments are forecast to rise just 3% in 2025, marking a slowdown from the explosive growth of past years. That might sound like bad news until you realize that Apple still dominates the revenue charts, thanks mostly to AirPods Pro. But here's where it gets interesting: the report specifically calls out AirPods Pro 3 as the key driver of Apple's continued dominance over the next 12 to 18 months. So in other words, this isn't just another boring refresh, it's gonna be a super cycle. So while brands like Xiaomi and JBL are gaining ground by flooding the market with earbuds under $50, Apple's sticking to its strengths: premium design and tight ecosystem integration. Counterpoint even points out the demand for AirPods Pro 3 is expected to be strong among current owners looking to upgrade. However, because of its higher price point, the Pro won't be the ones driving raw unit sales. That honor goes to cheaper models, but in terms of profit, Apple wins. Which brings us to a strange little detail that has just leaked. Apple quietly updated a part of its internal code base, and inside that code was a tiny clue pointing towards what could be its next major audio product. Buried deep inside a section related to device syncing, Apple's added a new Bluetooth identifier, 8239. Now this may just be a random number to you, but what matters is that this does not match any current AirPods or Beats headphones, and that's where things get interesting. Every AirPods and Beats model has a unique Bluetooth ID. For example, the AirPods Pro 2 with USB Type-C are listed as 8228. So what's this mysterious new code? It's something entirely new, and whilst we don't know what it is for sure, all signs point towards one likely candidate: AirPods Pro 3. Here's why. Rumors have been swirling for months now that Apple is gearing up to launch a third generation of AirPods Pro, possibly with major upgrades to health tracking and audio quality, and when you combine that with this unexpected code drop, it's hard not to get excited. This new identifier could be for some random new pair of Beats, sure, but the timing lines up almost perfectly with what we've heard about the next gen Pros, so it's not confirmation, but it is the closest thing to it. And when you combine this with other recent reports and leaks, things start getting very interesting. But not all reports agree. In fact, if you've been holding out for AirPods Pro 3 to launch this year, I've got some news for you, and unfortunately it's not the kind you're gonna love, because Jeff Pu tells us Apple is delaying the launch of AirPods Pro 3 until 2026. Yeah, you heard that right. The next major update to AirPods Pro might not come until next year's September event, the one that's expected to feature the iPhone 18 and Apple Watch Series 12. Now, before you panic and cancel your upgrade plans, here's the twist: this directly contradicts with what we've been hearing from other credible sources. Mark Gurman, arguably the most accurate Apple leaker on the planet, says AirPods Pro 3 are set to launch in the next few months, and Steve Mosso, who literally spends all his time digging through Apple's codes, has found direct references to AirPods Pro 3 inside iOS 26 beta. So who's right? Is Apple pushing back the release to 2026, or are we just a few months away from seeing these new earbuds? Personally, I'm leaning towards the latter. I mean, we've seen potential references to these AirPods inside codes, which is usually a sign they're launching very soon, and if you look at Apple's history with AirPods Pro, the release cycle is fairly consistent. The first generation model launched in 2019, then the second generation model launched 3 years later in 2022, so logically, the third generation model should launch in 2025. And if we're following Apple's typical September strategy, it would make perfect sense for AirPods Pro 3 to launch alongside the iPhone 17 this September. Time will tell who ends up being right, but assuming AirPods Pro 3 is indeed coming this year, let's break down what to expect. Let's start with the design. There's been a lot of talk regarding a refreshed design, but so far nothing concrete has leaked. Will they go stemless? I seriously doubt it. If you've been following AirPods rumors for a while, you remember that exact claim was made about AirPods Pro 2. Everyone was convinced Apple would ditch a stem, and yet they didn't, because why would they? The stem isn't just there for aesthetic purposes, it's functional. It's what allows for pink gestures and intuitive controls without it just tapping the side of your head to pause music or skip a track. That's not exactly elegant. Plus, Apple has just added the ability to use the stem as a shutter button for taking photos, which tells me they're doubling down on the stem, not phasing it out. What we might see is a more subtle change, maybe smaller sensors, a cleaner profile, and an overall sleeker shape. That would line up with Apple's general design philosophy: refinements, not revolutionary changes, especially for mature product categories. AirPods Pro 2 already reduced the size of these skin detection sensors, so it's not a stretch to imagine Apple could be doing that again. The bigger changes might actually come with the charging case. Based on what we saw with AirPods 4, it's likely that AirPods Pro 3 will get a slimmer case with a concealed LED indicator and a new capacitive button on the front. And while we're talking about design, can we please get new color options, Apple? We're 6 generations into AirPods, including both the regular and Pro models, and the only color we've gotten is white. I know it's iconic, but it's kinda getting boring at this point. Imagine a matte black AirPods Pro to match your MacBook or iPhone, or a sky blue version. Even just one other color would make a massive difference. But if I'm being honest, I'm not holding my breath. Apple seems pretty committed to the all-white aesthetic, probably because it reinforces the AirPods brand. Still, a little variety wouldn't hurt. And while at it, can we talk about the finish? The glossy plastic scratches, if you so as much look at it the wrong way. I'd love to see Apple switch to a matte or frosted coating. Not only would it feel much better in the hand, but it would age more gracefully and would be less prone to visible wear. But maybe that's the point. A case that looks beat up after a year is a subtle nudge to upgrade, and Timothy knows it. He's playing us like a fiddle. But you know who would not play you like a fiddle? Me. So I would appreciate if you took a minute to click that subscribe button. It's free and would bring you the latest about Apple right to the subscription box, so please consider it. Join the Saran Bite gang now. Now let's get into the part that really matters. What's changing inside the AirPods? Every generation of AirPods Pro has introduced a new chipset. We have the H1 in the original pair, H2 in the second, and so guess what? We're expecting the H3 in AirPods Pro 3. Wow! Now, while the naming scheme is not exciting, what the H3 could bring definitely is. We're talking about faster processing, better power efficiency, and improved wireless performance across the board. That means better noise cancellation, smoother transitions between transparency and ANC, better battery life possibly, and also better spatial audio. But maybe the most exciting thing about H3 is its potential to unlock new features, especially in the realm of health tracking. Yes, Apple's reportedly turning your earbuds into health monitors. One of the most talked about upgrades for AirPods Pro 3 is in-ear heart rate tracking, and this isn't just wishful thinking. Apple's already built this tech into the Powerbeats Pro 2, so we know it exists. It's just a matter of time before it lands in the AirPods range. Now, if you're already wearing an Apple Watch, you might be thinking, why would I need this? But not everyone wears a watch, and so for those users, this kind of biometric tracking built directly into the earbuds could be incredibly useful. There is one catch though. On the Powerbeats Pro 2, you can't stream music and transmit heart rate data to gym equipment at the same time. You basically have to choose between tracking your vitals and listening to music. Not ideal. Hopefully Apple finds a way around that with AirPods Pro 3 because, let's be honest, working out in silence should be illegal. Apple's also reportedly working on temperature sensing through the ear canal. This hasn't been confirmed and it may not be ready for AirPods Pro 3 at launch, but if it is, that could be a big deal. Measuring temperature via the ear is significantly more accurate than doing it on your wrist like the Apple Watch does right now. It could be useful for detecting early signs of illness or monitoring body temperature during exercise, and even if it doesn't ship right away, there's a decent chance Apple could add it later via software update, just like they did with the hearing aid feature on AirPods Pro 2. One more futuristic feature worth mentioning, on-device live translation. Imagine traveling abroad, popping in your AirPods and having a real-time conversation with someone who speaks in a different language, without awkward pauses or translation delays. That's a dream. Google's Pixel Buds already offer a version of this, but it's slow and often clunky. If Apple can pull it off with less lag and a more seamless UI, it could change how we travel, learn languages, or even work in multilingual teams. The only downside? Apple Translate still supports far too few languages. As someone who speaks Tamil, spoken by over 80 million people worldwide by the way, it's frustrating that it's still not included. So fix that please. Finally, let's talk about price. The AirPods Pro 2 launched at $249, same as the first gen. If Apple sticks with that price, it's a win. But given inflation and the new sensors, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a price increase, maybe to $279 or even $299, especially if Apple heavily leans into health tracking and positions these as parts of your wellness ecosystem. Suddenly the extra $30 feels more like an investment for your health than just an accessory upgrade. That said, Apple's pricing has been unpredictable lately. The new A16 iPad stayed at $349, which was surprisingly good, but then you've got products like the $599 iPhone 16e, which has left a lot of people scratching their heads. So honestly, your guess is as good as mine. But now I want to hear from you guys. Which rumored feature are you most excited about? Are you planning to upgrade right away, or are you sticking with your current pair? Let me know in the comments. And by the way, if you made it to the end, thank you. Be sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe for more Apple news, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.